Brokerage accounts, or as I like to call them, superhero accounts, are, in my opinion, the best account if you want to retire early. And I'm going to go through 7 reasons why so that you can see how they might really change your retirement in a big way. Now, I have a favorite reason for them, and then I have a financial favorite reason, which you might think is the same, but they're different. And I'm going to tell you why. So if you look at my screen here, this is my important numbers sheet. You guys can get all of this and more in the Early Retirement Academy. It tells you everything you need to know. Current tax brackets, deductions, Social Security. And if you go down here to the long-term capital gains tax section, you can see you can pay 0% taxes if you're married finally jointly, up to $96,700 or $48,350 if you're single, plus you get the standard deduction. So if you're married and your standard deduction is the one you're taking instead of itemizing at $30,000, and you want to take advantage of this $96,700 long-term capital gains tax bracket, you could theoretically generate $126,700 and not pay any taxes. Well, that's amazing. Well, what's an example of that? Well, let's just pretend, keep it real simple. You bought Apple stock for $1,000 and it's grown to $150,000. That's amazing. And if you retire at 55, hypothetically, you have no other income coming in. Now, maybe you do. Maybe there's rental income. Maybe there's part-time income. Maybe there's inheritance. But just for example's sake, pretend there's not. What you can do is you can take your $1,000 that you bought Apple for and it grew to $150. Well, you have a $149,000 gain. Theoretically, you could sell your entire Apple position and $126,700 you would not pay any taxes on. But wait, didn't I have big gains? Don't I have to pay taxes? Not in this case. Now, depends where you live, so you need to make sure you're aware of state taxes as well. But on the federal level, the amazing thing about this is the first $126,700 you pay 0% taxes on, and then anything beyond that you would then be in the 15% bracket. So that's the first reason a superhero account is incredible. Now, that's my favorite financial reason. The real favorite reason is flexibility. Imagine you max out your 401k and you have $3 million and now you're 52 and you want to retire. Well, look, you're going to have to pay crazy penalties and taxes to get access to that money, and you might be over your boss or commuting or deadlines and just want to be done. So there are tons of amazing benefits to 401ks and Roth IRAs, but this brokerage, this superhero account is so often overlooked. I have a separate episode of how do you invest in your superhero account. You could see over 50,000 of you resonated with that episode because it's how do you actually invest in it. Today, I'm talking about what are the benefits of it. So make sure to check out that episode if it's of interest. Let's get into today's episode. My name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and Chief Growth Officer at Root. I love helping people optimize what they've worked so hard for to retire early, aka spend more time doing what you want to do. So first benefit, flexibility. Unlike 401ks, Roth IRAs, 403bs, 457s, all these different numbers that someone made up once so that they get to feel really smart by having a 457b. The reality is this brokerage account, this is total flexibility. Now, what's the con? Well, the con is you don't get a benefit when you put money in. You don't get a tax benefit. You get a benefit that if you want, you can access that money whenever you want, but you do have to pay taxes unless you're using that tax gain harvesting. That's the name of the strategy I went over at the beginning, to pay $126,000 tax-free. And most people, by the way, they don't do that. Most people, there's part-time income or Social Security or rental income, or they're still working a little bit. But what they're able to do is they're able to maybe pay 0% taxes on a $20,000 gain in 1 year, and then $40,000 the next year, and then 10 the next year. So you can get strategic with it. So number one is flexibility. There's no limit. You can put as much money in. You can put $10 trillion in, and the government will never say anything. You'd have big dividends if you put $10 trillion into a dividend-paying ETF, but there would be no issue doing that. So I find most people who reach out to me, they are qualified rich, cash poor. The majority of their money is in a 401k or IRA, and they don't have enough in that brokerage account, which is your best account to keep your taxes low. Because if you generate tons of income from your 401k or IRA, which is, by the way, how it works. When you withdraw from it, it's as if you're just making more money. It's called ordinary income. So if you want to spend $100,000 in retirement and it's all coming from a 401k, you pay taxes. Just like you can see on my screen here, if you take $100,000, the first 10% is applied to the first 23,000, between 23 to 96, 12%, and then beyond that, 22%. And then, of course, state taxes. Number two, it's a great bridge for your early retirement. What if you want to retire at 57? Great. And most of your money's in a 401k. And you don't have access to what's called the rule of 55 because you retired at 53. But most of your money's in a 401k, you can't really take it in. Unless, well, you can, but you don't want to pay the taxes and penalties, trust me. So now you need money to act as a bridge until 59 and a half when you can start pulling from your 401k or IRA, hypothetically. So a early retirement account bridge like this superhero or brokerage account, or what some people call after-tax account, or some people call it a joint account or individual, they're all the same exact thing. It's just money that you already were taxed on that you're putting in to whatever you want so it can grow or not grow, and help as a bridge until you can access your qualified money in your retirement accounts. Number three is capital gains control. I mentioned this already, but the fact that you can choose your income is powerful. If you have a brokerage account, you pay capital gains taxes. So look at it like this. Let's go to my screen again. Pretend you have $100,000 in a 401k that you're pulling from. You're going to pay 10% federally on the first $23,000, then 12%, then 22%, excluding standard deduction in this example. You pay on this scale here. So 10, 12, 22. So some dollars are taxed at 22%. If you're taking 100,000 from a long-term capital gains tax, meaning you put money in, you've held it for at least a year in that position, you bought Apple stock for $1,000, it's now worth $101,000, and you held that for over a year. That first 100,000, you could see 96,700 is at 0%, and then you go to 15%. Then if you make over 600,000, you're at 20%. 20 is still less than 22. And I'm a CFP, so you guys just saw that math right there. So you can see capital gains control is powerful. Number four is tax loss harvesting opportunities. In a 401k, you can't even do tax loss harvesting. So I'll have people reach out and go, I'm gonna do some tax loss harvesting. My neighbor does it, sounds so cool. And all they have is an IRA. I go, you could do it, but you'd be spending a lot of time and it would do nothing. And they're like, well, I saw you could like do a lot and you can even carry over $3,000 even if I harvest more losses. So if I bought Apple stock for 1,000 and then it went to 10,000 and then it went to 7,000, technically that's a loss. I'd say, well, no, it's still a gain. But if we were to take another example, $10,000, Apple stock, you bought it, it's now worth 7,000. That is a $3,000 loss. You can't actually harvest that loss in a 401k. You can in a brokerage account. So you can use those losses to offset other gains, such as a capital gain, such as selling your home or condo or stock or many different things. So that's the fourth reason. Number five is diversification. Your 401k, I'm going to guess, probably has 10 or 15 options that you can choose from, unless you want to go into Brokerage link and customize it and get super fancy, which is a huge hassle. So the cool thing about a brokerage account is you can invest in whatever you want. Literally the entire investable universe, ETFs, mutual fund stocks, whatever you want, you can go do, and you don't have to go through your 401k at Fidelity or Vanguard to do so. So an important point on that. If all your money is in a target date fund because you want to retire in 2040, the reality is it might not be diversified properly because, the 401k has 15 options. Maybe their equity fund's great, but their fixed income or bond fund isn't great. You're still going to hold it because it's the only one you want. You don't want all equities if you're thinking maybe you're going to retire soon, most likely. So because of that, a brokerage account is an amazing vehicle. Maybe, and I've seen this happen successfully many times, what you would want to do is actually put all your money that's in a brokerage account in a bond fund, because you could choose the bond fund you want. It could be exactly what you want. And then you could have all equities in your 401k. So you're like, whoa, why would I do all equities? Well, what most people do is they have their 401k be 80-20 and their brokerage account be 80-20. But that's not actually the best way to execute what's called asset location, not allocation, location. And in your 401k, you might go, well, the bond fund really sucks here. I love the equity fund. I'm going to be 100% equities. So if I had a neighbor or friend look at my 401k, they think I'm crazy. But what they don't know is I actually have a brokerage account that's invested extremely conservatively, and they're offsetting each other for an overall 80-20. You're really making the most of all your different assets. Number 6 is liquidity. If you're going to retire, you're going to want to travel. Most of you want to travel. So what you like to do is have a certain amount of money set aside for that traveling. So I'll encourage people, if you're going to retire in the next 5 years, set up a brokerage account. You might want to invest it so it's growing, not like crazy growth, not like a Roth IRA, but growing in a way that the money is still going to be there for you. It might fluctuate a little bit, but it's not going to mean if markets go down, you can't travel. And it's not going to mean you're going to have 10 trillion more dollars because it's going to do so well and you hit the one big winner. So a brokerage account is total flexibility. If you put 100,000 in there for 2 years of travel, just as an example, don't get mad at me. Some of you are like, how on earth could you spend 100,000 in 2 years? Look, I have clients who do that in 6 months. And I have clients that would put 100,000 over 10 years. So no right or wrong, but let me know in the comments what you like to travel with in retirement, how much you need. And as you can see from me even explaining this, I get so emotional about it because I want you to travel and enjoy your retirement. If you are putting that 100,000 in, maybe it grows to 110, maybe it goes down as far as 90, but that might be a trade-off you're comfortable with, and you don't have to pay taxes since the money's already been taxed. And then number 7, estate planning flexibility. When you have a brokerage account, you receive what's called a step up in basis. Not you, but your child or neighbor or heir. So if you put 100,000 Apple stock and it grows to 10 million, when you pass away, hopefully not for a very long time, your children don't pay any taxes. They can inherit that, and it's as if they bought it for 10 million or 10 trillion or whatever I said. So that's what's really cool. It doesn't work that way with a 401k or an IRA. If they inherit that, there's a schedule, it gets complicated. I've done many videos on it, but a brokerage account is awesome for this reason. So hopefully this video and podcast, depending on wherever you're listening to this, was helpful. I know sometimes when I'm recording these episodes and they're podcasts and I say, look at my screen right here, you're like, well, I can't see your screen, I'm driving. So don't get in an accident. Don't try to look and go to YouTube and find the exact timing. I try to make them so that no matter where you're tuning in from, on YouTube or listening, that you can understand because I'm explaining it. And I love helping you all. So thank you for digesting this content however you do, whether it be through the podcast or YouTube. I love this stuff. If you want to work with Root because you're like, wow, I can tell you guys love brokerage accounts way more than I do. This is, of course, what we specialize in. Tax planning, estate planning, withdrawal strategy, healthcare, all that good stuff. Go to our website, rootfinancial.com, and hopefully we can help. See you guys next time.